Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're on episode 47 of the Ready, Set, Shag podcast. If you're not familiar with my show, well, you got to be more familiar with it. We talk every week, or we try to talk every week with someone who I'm like trying to learn more about, people I look up to, people who I'm very interested in and what they're doing. And it's always fun. We kind of delve into a more free form, non-stuffy conversation, usually non-confrontational. But today, my guest, of course, like always, he just fits the mold of this show. I've been kind of following along with him a little bit since we met in Vegas this past FNT meetup. I've been enjoying his new social media site that he's put out, Criticless.com. We're going to get into it all today, but everyone, you got to welcome Blaine. What's going on, man?
Not much, dude. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great that you're here, that you're able to make some time for me. We were talking pre-show. It looks like you were laid up for a little bit for a few weeks there.
Yeah. It was a rough go of it for about a month. It was a little touch and go. People were just like regularly messaging me like, "Are you back alive yet?" And I'm like, "Kinda, maybe." But I'm here.
Cool. Well, let's give people a little dish of like what you do and kind of who you are. I mentioned your website, criticless.com. Kind of give us a quick rundown of that real quick.
Yeah, for sure. So I am the CEO, creator, Lord Emperor of Criticless.com. I mean, we created this. This has been a brainchild of mine for many, many years. And basically what it is a lot of people compare us to a combatant to Rotten Tomatoes and kind of this, critic culture but really we're a whole lot more than that. We are a social platform. We are a community. We are a place where people can, just hang out and talk about the things that they are watching, and whether it be TV shows and movies right now, more to come in the future, hopefully. And so, but they can come there and leave reviews or make groups and lists. And it's basically just, it's hearkening back to the old school days of social media where it was, things were less divisive, and the way that I've kind of structured the platform and everything, it much more is about that kind of community, and you can create your own ecosystems and groups of people that you align with, and whether it comes with these interests in entertainment and whatnot. But it's just a fun social platform in an old school MySpace kind of way. Granted, that dates me, I know, but and I've been told that lately when I've made that comparison. And if you see my profile page, I directly ripped off MySpace Tom's picture to the point in which it's so close that many people think it is the MySpace Tom picture. So, I wanted to fully make it aware that that's what we were trying to do.
I was going to pull it up here for those who are watching or who are going to hit up the VOD or whatever. Sorry for those who might listen on other platforms and not see the video, but
right.
Just kind of show
worth seeing.
Yeah, so this is the main, like when you log into the site, when you go to criticless.com, you do get like a, hey, sign up. You can sign up with Google and other social platforms, I believe. And then once you do get in, you are brought to this page that shows trending reviews to start. I don't even know why I'm explaining it. I mean, you can totally explain it.
Go ahead. I want to hear something. No, you're good. You're right. We are following a more, modern social platform as far as like the feed goes and how all of that works. And, we've got your trending following, and then we created something called the water cooler, which is a little different because basically what I wanted to do was I pulled out a way. I made it so that you couldn't just directly post to your feed, so that the platform doesn't turn into just like endless social commentary of like, did you see what happened today? Or, whatever the case may be. It's more focused on the entertainment. So it's like, if you want to say something, you're going to talk about a specific piece of entertainment or media. And so that's what the water cooler is. But yeah, so we went with this very retro, like 80s, 90s neon synthwave aesthetic. I wanted to make it very colorful, and all of social media is so boring and dry and bland. All of art in general these days, as far as like corporate art, quote unquote, is just so, whitewashed and uninteresting, and they all look the same. And I wanted to make something different that also felt familiar.
Yeah, no, this is great. And I do like, and even just the structure of the website being like, I don't want to say like, it almost has that like old school forum vibe to it. Which,
Right.
like, that's another thing I kind of like. And if you're not a part of that generation where you spend hours like looking
Right.
at forums and stuff, like you don't probably appreciate it quite as much.
Right.
But yeah, as you can, I have 475 notifications.
Oh,
But
dude, yeah, been there. After that month that I was sick, it was like 4,000, 5,000 something. So I feel you. Yeah, that's how it goes. And I mean, we've really kind of, it's grown a lot. I mentioned on on X that we're 2 weeks from our 1 year anniversary, and so it's changed to a totally different thing from when we launched, and it's grown a whole lot. We've listened a lot to our users and what you can do on the platform. Like you see, we're hosting like YouTube videos now where you can post reviews if you're a content creator. We've had people, it's gotten so weird, like people do things that you do not expect them to do when you create something, and that is one of the biggest things we've learned. I added the YouTube video integration, and there are people, so we did put that behind a paywall, got to make some money somehow, but it's we put the YouTube video linking in there, and we've had people literally sign up and pay to join the Crit Club so that they could pair their movie reviews with music videos or songs. So they'll be like, here's a review for X movie, and this is the song that pairs with this movie.
That's cool.
It's a very MySpacey kind of thing, but it's just like that one person did it, and then it just like landslide. People were like, "Oh, USOB, you got me to pay for this just so I could put songs on here." And I'm like, I did not know you weirdos were going to do this.
It's funny. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about Aliens all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I guess it's because Alien Romulus is coming out. And I didn't even see anyone talk about this yet. And then I was at the gym, and I usually am like, I'll do like a long cardio, usually either like 35 or 45 minutes. Sometimes like I'll do like the big heavy uphill, or like fast walking, or just do a long run. And I started watching Aliens, and I'm glad it has an 89, but I was looking at it. I'm like, man, I need to watch this one more time, because I don't know if I love this movie as much as I did originally. I love Alien, but Aliens isn't holding up as well as I thought it did. And it was kind of a weird feeling. I felt weird about it. Like thinking it, like I'm betraying myself.
I caught some crap because I just reviewed Alien, the first film, and to me, like, it didn't hold up that well. And I was just like, guys, I'm not that crazy about it. I'm sorry, but like, I can't give this a most excellent. Like, it's not to me. And I mean, I still respect it for its place in time and everything that it is, but it just didn't land the same way. And I totally get how you feel.
Yeah. So like, it's hard when you have like the grading system like this, to not give some of these movies 100%. Like Snatch, I reviewed recently, and I think I gave it 100. And I was like, man, I feel weird about giving it 100. Not because I don't feel it deserves it, but I'm like, is anything really that great? Like, and I wonder,
is it deserving of that?
Right. And I do wonder, like, when you're, and this is just me like thinking, like maybe there's a way to truly grade a movie based on, like, because you have your slide. Actually, maybe I should bring up
the slider,
like how it comes up here.
Yeah.
So when you go to review a movie, it brings up your thing, and you can rate based on what you think, just overall. But I wonder if these here, or if you could make something similar that contributes to this, you know what I mean? Like, so the more you fill in here, and the more like, the more these sliders or whatever,
it helps you decide where you would be.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting thought. Yeah. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. That is definitely a possibility. We're actually talking about another thing with those sliders. If you saw our themes there, like, for those that don't know, we let you rate, based on violence, nudity, sexual content, all that stuff, so that, you can get a more fine-tuned idea of what you're getting into, especially like the family friendliness. That helps a lot. Like, anytime I'm going to see something, I'll go and check that and see what anybody said, and that way I know, like, okay, my kids can't, or can see this. We're talking about adding one pretty soon here that's going to be an entertainment value slider. So, like, for example, some movies are like, this movie's trash. Like, I completely understand that it is trash. It's a heinous. But also the entertainment value is 100. Like, it is maxed out because this movie is so much fun, but also it's a pile of dog shit.
Well, see, that's how I felt when I love X Electronica. She's like one of the coolest people in the entertainment commentary space right now.
Right.
But when she rated Velocipaster like 100, I was like, no, that's heinous, but it's entertaining. There's a difference.
Exactly. There is a difference. So that way, maybe if we add that, it'll shift how people I think it'll shift how people will review. Ever since I've mentioned it, everybody's been begging for it. But it's kind of one of those things. We reached a point several months ago where it was kind of a roadblock. And I was like, we have to stop spending money. This is out of control. And another thing that I didn't mention earlier, we are in app stores as well. So we're in Android and Apple. You can download it and find us in the app stores. And we have an app version as well. So it's mobile. But this is completely self-funded. Me and my wife just decided to bite the bullet, jump in headfirst. Like, it's just us. And that was a big on-taking. And something like this is fathoms more expensive than you would ever expect it to be, especially when you don't come from this industry. I am blue collar to my core. Literally, I've ran multiple blue collar, businesses before this. Literally, what I did before building this company and this platform, I owned a landscaping company, like, for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about a shift.
Yeah. And before that, I ran a trucking company. So, yeah, it's just, it was a big change, but it was one of these things where we were in a position where I'd been talking about this for like 10 years. And, we ended up in a spot financially where we were like, I think we could do this. And I was just like, I feel so called to do this thing. I want to build it. Society needs it. Culture needs it. Like, we are floundering right now. Freedom of speech has gone out the window. Like, things have just gotten crazy. And I don't want my children to grow up in a world where, X number of years down the line, my kids are like, well, what did you do? What did you guys do when everything was going to crap? And I'm like, well, I watched some YouTube videos, listened to some people talk about it, and I wanted to do something. And so we dove headfirst and did it. And it's been a wild, wild ride for the past 2 years. It took us about a year to build it, and it was crazy. And I was literally just drawing what I wanted the site to look like with a pencil and paper on a notebook, and just doodling and coming up with all these ideas and the scales and all this stuff. And I, searched forever. I found the perfect team, a company called Twin Sun. They're out of Nashville. I wanted somebody in the U.S., wanted to keep this 100% U.S. based, keep it in the country, and basically find the right people. And I did, and they were really passionate about it. And they have been, they backed me 100%. And, they've helped me every bit of the way and still do. And because I can't even, I'm not a tech guy. And so I need the help of some tech people or this isn't going to function, and they've been great, and we've made it work.
What are some of the biggest stumbling blocks or stumbling points that you've come across since launching the site a year ago?
Honestly, number one, with doing something like this, especially something of this scale, because, I've talked to, many bigger parties in this space. And, I've literally been told, like, we wanted to build this forever, but it's insane. And the cost and the time and everything, like, we didn't want to do it, but you did. And it was insane. And I wasn't expecting that. And so when you're not used to this, like, marketing something like this and getting the word out there and helping people figure out what it is and find it is the most difficult thing imaginable. And then on top of that, like, if you've never dealt with that world, just even the cost of marketing and just everything built in with that, and just helping people to find out that you exist is something that you need to save money for, you need to expect and plan for. And, I just had no idea that the amount that would take and the shift that it would make. And honestly, I was kind of a little naive because it's like, we're in the middle of very much what I would consider a culture war for sure. And there's been a lot happening for a while now. And, I just figured, hey, once people get wind of this, like, they'll just be blasting it out. They'll be talking about it. It's like, that's not reality. That's not how things work, like it or not. Like, most people aren't just going to do something for you for free. And, a lot of it's just, you just can't expect that. Unfortunately, it's a little naive, and that's kind of where I guess that was my shortcoming. And I've learned and grown, and it's as you go, you just figure things out, and that's kind of where we are now.
What do you think on this site breaks the most for you? Have you like come across any technical issues that seem to plague you constantly, or do you not involve yourself much with that?
Oh no, yeah, I stay on up to date with everything going on with all that. I'm a lot more tech savvy with all this now than I was when I came on board, and know a lot more about this space and this industry in general. But the biggest thing, honestly, the biggest hurdle for us has been one of the decisions that I made up front is I was like, look, all of these social media platforms are absolutely plagued with bots.
Yes.
And whether people like to admit it or not, the little hidden secret is that if it's a social platform, especially, but really any of them, they secretly like the bots, right? Because it lets them inflate the numbers of the user base so that the advertisers have to pay them more than what they would if the user base was lower without all the bots.
Interesting.
So yes, that's one of those hidden secrets in the industry, and so. I didn't know this coming in, obviously, and I decided to put a roadblock for bots right in the beginning, and we require a phone number, period, to create an account. Like, if you want to interact and leave a review, you have to have a phone number tethered to your account. A lot of people don't like that. And
I was going to say, that sounds like something people would despise, but...
Yeah, a lot of people don't like it, and we've gotten pushback for sure over the past year, and we've been super proactive. We explain to people, and luckily, as time goes by, we get less resistance. Also, it's just difficult because there's like all these different area codes, all this. I don't want to get into the complications of it, but it's like it can get complicated to require that. But none of these platforms require it. And our user base could be fathoms bigger if I did not have that roadblock in place, but it would just be bots. And I'm like, I want us, like, this at its core, this platform is about reviewing entertainment. And I want people to know whether when we get to the point where we're big enough that studios we're on their radar and they're saying like, hey, this site Criticless is out here and it's got like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever people using it, and we've got reviews for the Acolyte and it's sitting at a heinous at like a 5% or whatever. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to say like, there aren't bots on this site, this is all real reviews, and people hate this crap, and you guys need to stop making trash.
Yeah, it's what it's funny. I was so I wasn't on there, or I think I don't really use Instagram that much. I used to use it a lot. And then Threads came out as their response to Twitter because Twitter bad. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to like go and like look and post on Threads without having the app for a while. And then they like cut that out and they like force you to download their app to access it. Right. Then I got on there because I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll just go on there and like try and do something in there as like as a more moderate voice and a very lefty platform. Because it's crazy lefty on there. But one thing I noticed real quick was the amount of bots on there, like insane amounts of like, hey, check out my profile. Like, I mean, everywhere. Like, I don't even know. Right. It's in that, and I get it, but it makes sense now that you're saying like it's so the advertisers have to pay them more. Like, it makes way more sense now why they're there. Because I'm like, this is all BS. Why would I don't even care to be on here.
Absolutely. I mean, it's absurd. And it's like, I would rather have a substantially smaller user base, be able to tout that we are a real platform. Actually, my wife's in the comments, she said real reviews by real people. And that was our slogan even before we knew that this was going to be the result. It's like, we wanted this to be a platform for real people as far as just real opinions of not critics, because, when you think about film criticism, people instantly go to critics. And it's like, look, regular people have opinions too. Regular, real people. And like I said, I spent my entire life around nothing but blue collar people. And, and we live in the South, and it's, out in the sticks, and it's a totally different lifestyle. And you talk to people and they're like, they're just like, I don't know what's going on. Everybody's saying all this stuff, and that's not the world I live in,
I like how you put on that accent a little heavier there.
Yeah. Oh, listen, it could come out if you want it to. Get me around my people for about 5 whole minutes, and the twang is real thick. I'll be talking about clumbing trees and swimming in the creek, But You know, it's talking to regular folks, it's just like they're like, I don't get they're pushing all these agendas and all this political stuff in movies. I just want to have fun. I just want to like go to the theater and eat some popcorn and, you know, just have fun at the movie theater. And we're seeing the effects of that over the past, you know, year. The box office has just taken a giant dump. You know, it's like the studios aren't making money. They're dealing with the after effects of the strikes, and you know, we're dealing with an onslaught of talentless hacks, bad writers, you know, just and it's in so many different industries now they're kind of ruining everything for the sake of I guess as Critical Drinker would put it, the message. Right. And it's overtaking everything. And it's like, most people are like, I don't want a right-wing message. I don't want a left-wing message. I don't want any message. I don't care. I just want to have fun and have some escapism, whether it's playing video games or whatever. I want to escape this reality. Things have been rough since 2020. Like, I don't want any more of the real world when I go to the theater. Like, I've had enough of that. Right.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate because I've gone to a couple kids movies recently, and two that I need to actually write reviews on. But one was Harold and the Purple Crayon, and first of all, nobody in the theater but me, my wife, and two kids. Nobody. But the marketing around that wasn't great either. But I don't think they
marketed it at all.
Yeah, like there's no. I think the trailers were it. Like I didn't see anything anywhere else, and like it was just sad because like taking your kids to the movies used to be something you did that was fun, and my kids enjoyed it. They thought it was super like cool, like what was happening. But as like an adult, I just sat there and was like, what is happening here? Like Zooey Deschanel like wanted to be anywhere but there. Zachary Levi just kind of played the same bumbling fool.
Right.
The things that were happening were just so nonsensical. Like, and again, I know it's a kids movie, but how many kids movies have been made where you're sitting there like engrossed in what's going on? It's good, effective storytelling. Jermaine Clement in that movie was probably the very best part as far as like comic relief. And he was only in the movie for like probably a total of like 15, 20 minutes screen time. It was just like, and he was like the antagonist. So it was kind of a weird. But
that's a shame. Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, because of Criticless, literally, like it's had a reaction with me that I wasn't even really expecting, with just the community aspect of it and making friends and whatever, people making recommendations. And it's like I'm going back and watching a lot of old things that I never saw. And you talk about like, you know, how many kids movies and stuff you're engrossed in. You even think about simple things like The Goonies or Pagemaster in the 90s or Pagemaster is freaking awesome. That
underrated, to be sure.
Big time. We showed that to our kids recently, and they were just like, "This movie's sick." But like some of these older films, and you're like, "Man!" Like, and really, what it keeps coming down to, it feels like to me, over and over and over again, is the writing. It is in the writers' room, man, and that is where this stuff is falling apart. And I think that these actors and stuff are seeing it too, where they're like, they know that what they're saying and what they're acting out is trash. Like, and like you said with Zooey Deschanel, it's like she doesn't want to be there because she knows it's not up to snuff.
Right.
And I just saw Borderlands. Like, you want to talk about a cast that didn't want to be there? Dear God.
Yeah.
Just rough.
I always thought, and I'll get a lot of shit for it, but I've always thought that the Borderlands series was a bit overrated in general. And then to see that they came out with a movie, I was just like, I don't really care about this. And it just didn't look right. Nothing looked right about it. And honestly, the character that I enjoyed most of that whole series was Handsome Jack. Like, I would much rather like a more in-depth, like they tried doing the origin story with the pre-sequel on him, and that game sucked. But it was, you know what I mean? Like, I just want good writing. I'm sick of people taking the easy route of, oh, we got this property, we're gonna sort of hamstring it into a half-assed movie that we think might make money, and it's like, no, you're losing the whole core of what made that great. And it's the same problem you have with endless sequels, right? They're trying to capture the magic of the original while also putting something new into it or their own politics into it to make it relatable for, you know, again, the modern audience. You know, and that's not what, you know,
at the end of the day, it's not what people want, clearly. because they're not showing up for it. If they wanted it, they would show up. And it's like we see with Deadpool and Wolverine, you give the people what they want, they will show up, and you will make $1 billion. Right. But if you don't, then they won't. And I mean, that's a Disney property, just like so many other things Disney has released, and they've had like 2 hits over how long? Like Inside Out 2 and this. Everything else has just been full blown stinkers. Like.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that I really enjoyed Inside Out too. Again, it was one of those like movies that felt like they understand what was good about it, or almost like they took, I think I may have written this in my review. They took this base story of Inside Out 2. They knew exactly what made it really good and what people liked about it, and then built on that, but never went in a direction that was like, hey, look at this. You need to like this.
Right.
And that was like, it was such a breath of fresh air, because there's a couple moments in that movie where I thought, oh, here it comes. But they steered away. They don't
go there.
Yeah, they don't go there. And again, these are things that kids won't pick up on, but like adults, when they're watching it, they're like, okay. But you know, it was a well done movie at the end of the day. And I'll give credit where it's due. And like, hey, good job with this, because I really liked it as an adult, and I didn't feel like I was being talked at the whole time.
Right. And that's it. We have so many people now within Criticless, and it's like this 50-50 split of an opinion here, where it's like, how do you handle this problem? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'll like review a movie like that or Deadpool or whatever, and you know, we'll get responses where it's like, oh yeah, I really kind of wanted to see that, but like I'm not subscribed to Disney Plus, and I'm not going to go to theater for their movies, and I don't want to give them any of my money, and I don't want to contribute to what they're doing. And I completely understand that stance. I'm not here to come at you for that. That's, you know, everybody's able to have their opinion, but where I sit with it is I'm kind of on the other camp of things, where I'm like, look, Disney is going to hold on to all of this. They own so many franchises that we love. They're going to hold on to it with their dying breath. So really, maybe what we do is support the stuff that they are doing right. Show up at Deadpool and Wolverine. Show up at Inside Out 2. The things where they're not pushing agendas, where they're making what the people want, and we show up and give our money in those places. And then in the others, don't. Go to sites like Criticless, listen to people like, you know, Gary Nerdrotic, or, you know, any of these other voices, or, you know, even people like us who are these smaller creators who are just commenting on this stuff, and, you know, listen to the people you trust and get their opinions, and then decide if you want to go see it or not. And because they're not going to let Star Wars go. They're not going to let Marvel go. They know that these are cash cows, and they're just going to keep on. And if we just pull back from everything, they're just going to lean harder into the message and only preach to that audience. They're only going to create for those people and just keep putting out trash and destroy the stuff we love.
I did see Disney put out Angels in the Outfield on their streaming service, which I couldn't find it anywhere. Could not find it. It was not available to buy. The only thing that was available was the original from like 1952 or something like that, because it's a remake.
I didn't know there was another one. I had no idea that was a remake.
Neither did I. And but I really wanted to show my kids this movie, and I still haven't. But we were scrolling through stuff the other day, and I was like, oh my god, it's on here. So like, we have Disney Plus because my kids, like, they'll watch all the old stuff, you know.
Right.
And it's, you know, I'm starting to collect physical media again because I want it.
Same. Well, and we're realizing how it's disappearing, right? Like, it's astounding how you can be subscribed to like 10 or 15 different things. It's, you know, like people joke about, it's almost like cable now. You can be subscribed to all of them and not have access to anything. It's like, you know, in the chat, they were saying that, you know, PageMaster is not anywhere that you don't have to pay for. And that's a bummer. And so now it's like, I've started doing the same thing. It's like physical media. If I see that I can yank it up on Amazon or wherever for, you know, $15, $20, like, I'll just go ahead and buy it. Because it's like, there could come a day where, I guess the best example is like, I game a lot too, and there was a Scott Pilgrim video game, and something happened with the rights to that video game, and it was digital only. You couldn't buy it physical, and it disappeared from every single platform for like 4 or 5 years, and you couldn't buy the game. And I'm just like, crap. And that was kind of my wake-up call for physical media. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to shift gears. And like, if it's something I really like, maybe I should own it.
Yeah. So you in like your Twitter bio, you mentioned that you've like avoided social media for a long time. Is it just because of like the toxic nature of it, or is it something? Was it something else?
Right. It's kind of all of the above. I I wasn't even big into YouTube, and now we've started Criticless Cast, which is our little YouTube channel. We're just trying it out. A lot of our people in Criticless were like, y'all should just start a channel, just start doing stuff, join the, crowd. And so we have, and I got much more respect for you guys now after doing it, man. This is like, it's a lot more work than you would expect. And like we were talking about before the show, is it's like, when you've got a family and kids, especially like, being on that grind of if you've got a regular job and then you're trying to get out videos and all this stuff, like it's more work than they say, I guess is the best way to put it, or and much respect to everybody that does it. But I mean, I just didn't use really, my wife like pushed me into getting an Instagram account literally like, I don't know, probably in around like 2020 or a little before. I didn't even have an Instagram. I didn't use my Facebook. Like, I just didn't like it. Like you said, it just had gotten so toxic, and like it was just so politically driven. And it's why when I made Criticless, I was like, I want to make it where people can't just post on their feed, where it just can't be just junk. Like if they're gonna do it, the way that I made it was I was like, we're gonna make the water cooler, where it's basically the water cooler is like a Reddit or like a forum or whatever, or like a subreddit on every piece of media. So it's like if they want to make a comment about what Joe Biden said today, they're going to have to go to like some political movie, and then they're going to have to go in the water cooler and be like, did you see this? And then share it to their feed, and it's going to have a movie attached to it. And so there's almost like a layer of comedy kind of attached to that. Yeah. Or it's happening in groups and stuff. But it's like, I just don't want a feed full of that. And it seems to have really helped the number of comments that we're getting from people on, at least a weekly basis, of people just being like, look, I don't really know where to post this. It's usually in groups. And they're like, I just want to say thank you. Like, I've quit using all of their social media, and I've come here. And if I want to talk politics, or if I want to talk conspiracies or whatever, like, we have a group for that. It happens there. But otherwise, like, if I am operating on this site, like, I'm just talking about the things that I enjoy, and I can't wait for it to get to the point where there's video games and books and comic books and music and whatever you can think of, all these forms of entertainment, and you can just filter out what you want to see. And it's just like, it's about the things that you enjoy, the whatever you are into at the moment, versus just staying so hyper political all the time. You can do that on X. You can do that, if you're a boomer, on Facebook. You can, or Instagram or wherever. Yeah. But it's just it has worked the way that I was hoping that it would, which is a real relief.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, has this like whole endeavor turned out the way you had hoped? I mean, are you hitting your milestones in the way that you had hoped, or are you like a little behind, a little ahead? What is your outlook so far?
Right. Numbers were behind where I'd want to be, but on the same hand, I couldn't be more happy with the users that we have, with the people that we have, and when we have folks. You can tell when someone comes in and they're like, oh, this is the place. Like this is what I want to do. And we have people that are on this platform all day, every day, dropping reviews, commenting, hanging out with people, making friends, using groups. And if that's not a testament to it doing what it's supposed to do, then I don't know what is. And I was talking to someone recently, and I'm like, regardless of the level of success, what we have achieved at this point, and what our users have shown us, like, we did do the right thing, and this is a success already. It's just a matter of how big can we grow this? How big of a cultural, movement can this be? Because the thing is, it's like, yeah, there are other platforms, there's Rotten Tomatoes, but Rotten Tomatoes has become a joke, and it's not social. It's not anything like what we are, right? But we have everything that they have and fathoms more. And it's like, it was actually a shock, because there's a platform called Letterboxd, and it literally became popular while we were building this app. And it kind of started to gain traction and blow up. But it has also become this hyper pretentious echo chamber where they are nuking accounts for reviews. Like, they got bought out by a Canadian, megacorp, basically, where it's not a safe platform to be on if you're having alternative opinions. On top of that, they don't even let you comment under comments, things like that. Like, they're not doing what we're doing still. And so I was worried at first, because it was like we hit launch point, and I was like, oh my God, these guys have blown up. They literally sold for like $50-something million, like months after we launched. I'm like, we're freaking toast. But then I looked at it and I was like, no, like they aren't doing what we're doing. They're not like, this site is boring and dated. It feels like an old WordPress site from the freaking 90s. Like, it sucks. And so they're not our competition. I'm not worried about them. We are doing stuff better. We are being creative. We are innovating. And more than anything, we don't want to be pretentious. We want for, you to be able to tell like your folks or family members or whoever and be like, hey, go check out this platform. Like, you don't have to review on there. Just use the app. And every time you want to see a movie, just check out a review. Or look at the family friendliness rating, or look at the political bias meter, or, on a movie, or just make a friends with benefits. And I don't know if you've even set that up yet or figured out that feature yet. That is another thing I've learned that we didn't really prep for, is like, we are doing things that no one else is doing. And when you do that, people don't just intuitively figure it out. You can't expect people to just like figure out how things work. Right. And so Friends with Benefits is, I think, probably the most innovative thing on the entire site. And one of the core elements of when I wanted to build it was basically you can set up a Friends with Benefits list where you pick, as many people as you want. And essentially what happens is when you go to look at any piece of entertainment, you are given a specific score that is related to just your Friends with Benefits if they have reviewed it. So basically, if I go look at Alien and the score is a most excellent from the audience, but then I go and look at my Friends with Benefits score and it's a decent, I could be like, oh, I might not like this. My Friends with Benefits have given it a decent, but the general audience is a most excellent. So it's a good gauge for you to basically be able to buffer and see, like, I might not like this because my friends, the people that I agree with the most, that I've added this Friends with Benefits list, don't like it. Even though everyone else does.
I have you and Vex are my Friends with Benefits right now, but I don't, and that's the thing is I get lost in trying to do a lot of different things, and it like involving myself in a lot of different platforms, especially when I'm trying to talk to people on stuff or look through stuff, and then get research from different stuff. Like I'm everywhere, but this is you really do have a unique product here, and any chance, whether it was on my Wednesday show, whether it's here on this show with family, I've told them, I said, you need to get on criticless.com if you're interested in movies, because it is, it just looks good. It works. The mobile app works especially well. Like I usually write my reviews on there, usually like when I'm just like sitting on the couch and I remember like, oh shit, like I write that out. Right. It's just so well done. There's a lot of thought put into it, and there's so much that can be stacked on top that, you guys have a solid foundation. Now the additions that come on here only make it better. And that friend, like you said, that Friends with Benefits thing, I don't think people realize how powerful it is, but it's something that people aren't doing elsewhere
enough. Right. Yeah. And it's not, it was one of the things when I decided to make it, I was like, this is going to be the thing. Like, if I can relate to the people using the platform, like, this is the feature. This is the thing that no one's thought of. And it's going to be essential in just deciding if you want to watch something. And it's like, you look at anything, you can click on that Friends with Benefits little score, and it just goes ahead and gives you all the reviews. You don't have to wade through hundreds of reviews or whatever to see. It's like you just click on it, you're like, this is what my friends think, all individually. And it's funny because you can have people like, I had Vex in my Friends with Benefits for a while. I publicly stated that she has been removed from my Friends with Benefits because I love Vex to death, but she is my mortal enemy when it comes to reviewing. We disagree so heavily, so regularly. It's hilarious. So I love to give her crap for it. I troll her reviews. I think she just waits when she drops a review for me to be the first one to be like, you suck. And I just constantly troll her because we totally disagree, because that was kind of one of the things that made me kind of want to do this. Was I'm okay with a trashy movie. Like, I'm okay. Like, as a joke, we built in, and I don't know if you've really looked at the achievements or the badges yet within the app, but we built in badges kind of similar to like, if you're playing video games on an Xbox or whatever, where you're doing things within the app and you're unlocking achievements.
Gamifying. It's really smart.
Yeah. And so I wanted to gamify the platform. There's a lot more coming with that. I'm really excited for down the road. I've got a lot of big plans for what to do with the badges. We literally, I found out we had a secret group with Odin, like OMB Reviews, and multiple other people. They had created a secret group where they were trying to figure out what all the badges were, because we don't tell how to get them. And so like we give little clues and hints, and I found out that my clues were very difficult. I did not realize they were difficult when I made them, but I made a badge within the app about Pacific Rim, because Pacific Rim I felt like is the essential. It's like it's one of these movies that you either love or you hate it. Like, people are, if they hate it, they really hate it.
Yeah.
And as an actual troll, I'll go ahead. I'll out what it is right now. But basically, it's the only badge in the entire app that works this way, and you have to give Pacific Rim 100% to get the badge. You cannot get it any other way. So there's multiple reviews that are 100% for Pacific Rim, and it's literally like, I hate Blaine. He's a piece of shit. This stupid badge. Like, just like talking crap. Like, this movie sucks. But I did it as a troll because it's like, there are these movies where it's like, it's just a popcorn movie. Don't take it seriously. Don't like think too much about it. Just enjoy the ride. Just hop along for the ride. And that was the thing, is it's like, when you look at the critics, like, they will bash stuff like that, but then they'll praise like the most just hyper political, dull piece of trash.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the essence behind that joke. And kind of my thing was, I noticed, I'm like, man, I like so many things that these critics hate, but like, I had a good time. I had fun. And I know that a lot of other people did too.
I think that's another good reason that you need to implement the entertaining slider. Or I forget exactly how you,
entertainment, right?
Entertainment,
entertainment scale, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's another reason you need to do that as quickly as possible, because it's a movie can be bad, but you still are like in your seat, like, whoa, like this is like, it's just like, there's some Arnold Schwarzenegger movies that are just, they're campy and dumb, but you're like, that's pretty cool, whatever, like all his like bad lines, and like The Running Man, like it's not a great movie, but you kind of stick around and watch it for his one-liners. And
a lot of 90s and 80s movies are that way. I mean,
right,
just a cheese fest.
Yeah, and it's the gamifying thing. When I first saw that on your site, I thought was a brilliant idea, and I really expanding my profile on here is something I want to do a lot more, especially getting into the lists. Like, you can create your own lists, and like definitely joining more groups. Because there's so many different things that I really enjoy with like TV versus movies. And then, eventually if you guys get into video games, because I love video games too.
That'll be the next thing. That'll be the next big thing. It depends. We've got things brewing, stuff happening, and if things play the way I want to, that will be the next big update. That and like some quality of life stuff. But really, that's like the big thing, because I think that that's what's going to really send us kind of to the stratosphere, because no one's doing this in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, really, my hat's off to you with what you've done here. I hope, and I know you do, obviously, that this gets picked up quickly. And I think what you're doing, I think this crowd that you've mixed in with and being a part of FNT Vegas and then going to other things is really going to help, because but like you said, the marketing budget for things is a lot of times the most expensive part, at least in like entertainment. It's like a huge part of it. So if you don't have the way to like, mass distribute and like put up ads on Twitter or whatever, or X or whatever, you're probably not going to get seen. But a lot of the people you want there now are the ones that are in, or who are going to these meetups or going to these cons. And I think you do want people on both sides of the entertainment spectrum and political spectrum, because it does matter. There's a lot of people who are just sort of floating in the middle who might think that a movie or the show like The Acolyte is not really good, but could be a little bit more critical of it, or they might like it, but they're a little more critical of it. You know what I mean? And you need to balance everything out. You don't want everything to fall just on that.
No, you don't want an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Like I have no interest in that, and that has been, you talk about like the struggles with this, is that's been one of the big things, and it's hard because it's like, with at the end of the day, if I talk for any amount of time, you're going to find out to some degree in which direction I sit with certain things, and the world has become so divisive now that people silo you into one camp or another, and it's like I don't identify as a Republican or a Democrat. It's like if I were to identify as anything, it'd be some like fringe like anarcho-libertarian or something ridiculous. Like I don't know, you know, it's like you know, I don't have an identity politically, but people, when they hear you give certain opinions on things, they instantly are like, oh, they're right wing, or they're, you know, whatever, and it's like, unsubscribe. I'm not dealing with this. I'm not, you know, and that's a real shame because you're missing out. And I don't want to be that way. I don't want to judge people that way. And it sucks. Like when we early on, I realized like that my voice had more impact than I was really thinking, because the other thing that I did was I set my account like MySpace Tom, where I am your first friend. Like when you sign up to Criticless, I'm there. Like, I'm your friend. You have one friend. It is funny the amount of people that unfollow me. Really funny. I was...
Who's this asshole?
Right, exactly. Like, I didn't follow this idiot. Like, you know, so... But that did make me laugh. It still does. But the real definer was... And I waited months to drop my Barbie review. And I finally watched it. And I left my review. And we had people that were paid accounts unsubscribe, quit paying, delete their accounts, like leave the platform. And I'm like, just from my Barbie review, like, come talk to me. Like, tell me I'm wrong. Like, tell me I'm an idiot. Like, please prove me wrong. I want to be proved wrong. Like, don't just be like, this guy thinks differently than me. He's a piece of trash. Like, I don't want anything to do with this platform. And I don't want that to be how it is. I don't want to be a divisive figure. Like, I don't want to, I want to have positive conversations and interactions with people. Like, I want there to be growth. I just want the world to be a better place. I want things to stop being so divisive. It's like the amount of friends and people that we lost in our lives from pretty much 2020 onward, when things just really went off the rails. Now, granted, this landslide started back in probably like 2015. Yeah. And really, like, I wanted to build this platform like literally when I was in college. I'm 36 now. But I've wanted to build it for a long time. But really, when I was like, this has to be built, was about 10 years ago or so. And it's like I was listening to all these podcasts and was just it was when I was running that trucking company. I was also driving a semi truck, and I was just in a truck all the time. And so I just listened to podcasts all day, every day. That's all I did. And then there came a point where people that I listened to all day, every day for 2 years straight, all of a sudden, people that I agreed with, their opinions completely changed. Their mindset changed. They were just, it was like, to the point where I was like, I know how you think about things. I know your opinions on movies. I know that you don't really like this. You are saying that you do because you have to. Yeah. Like, it's a requirement. And that was when I was like, we're in trouble. Like, this is a problem. And that was when I was like, we need a way for regular folks to really get their opinion out there. And it was a weird shift. I don't know if you were kind of in that sphere and listening and watching much, or, you know, to what was happening with culture. But it was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was telling people, like my wife, you know, I was like screaming from the mountaintops. I'm like, we're in trouble. Like, this is bad. Like, I'm listening to all these podcasts and everybody is turning into like religious zealots, and they're controlling people's speech, and you're not allowed to like say certain words. And like, I heard this guy say crazy the other day, and he was told that he wasn't allowed to say crazy and it was offensive. And, you know, just like, my mind was blown. And my wife and all these people were like, you're being dramatic. This is ridiculous. You're just being you, over the top, whatever. And I'm like, I'm telling y'all, we're screwed. Give us a little while. It's coming. It's freaking coming. And sure enough, it did. And look at where we are now.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was, what was I? I used to listen to Giant Bomb quite a bit. And then I used to listen to this game podcast called Rebel FM.
Yep, I know the ones.
Oh, those guys are really great. And I actually played with I used to play a little Overwatch, and what else did I play with them? Anthony Gallegos was one of them.
Yeah, I know him. I know of him.
Right. So it was like, it was Destiny that we would play a little bit of. Oh, yeah. It was like a few people from the community. He would occasionally join us, but like, you know, I got to know that community, and I really liked their takes on stuff. And then like, 2018, 2019 hit, and like they would almost always start talking about politics. And I was like, or no, it was even before that. It was like 2016, because like Trump was elected, and then everything became at some point during their show was about that. And I was like, I can't fucking do this. Like,
Right.
I like these guys. I like their takes on the game industry, and they know a lot about the game industry because they're in it.
Yeah.
But the guy who created Arthur, he was the most insufferable one. And I was like, dude, just talk about games. I don't care about this. And it sucked because I don't ever want to be the one who abandoned someone because of but it just got to a point where it always came up. It was always being,
absolutely. And
I wanted to say things, I said stuff publicly on Twitter, and I followed some of these guys, and some of them followed me just because because they were nice.
Right.
But, then you just start getting blackballed for just like, hey, I don't think this is right. This seems a little weird. And then they're like, oh, you're being a bigot, and you need to apologize for being white and all this. I'm like, what's happening? What are we doing? It's so weird.
Yeah. It's like, how did we get here? Like, why? I mean, obviously now, retrospectively, we see it and we see how we got here. Right. And it's like, this was all the playbook. Like, this was all meant to happen this way. Mm-hmm. And it is, it is a shame. And I saw the exact same things, and it's really, it's funny because it's like, it's become kind of this meme, on that side of politics. It's like, who activated you? And the question is who activated you? It's like, you activated me. That's who activated me. And that's not what you wanted. I didn't want to be this way. I didn't want to have to jump into the culture war. I'm not somebody who wants to just stir shit and cause problems and make enemies. I just want to be friends. I want to be homies. Let's hang out and get along and play video games and watch movies together and whatever. But it's we're coming to a point where you're telling me that there's certain words that I can't say, and there's you're changing words in the dictionary. And I went to school for a while before I dropped out of college. I was going for journalism, and I loved it. It was actually quite good at it. And I started watching what was happening in that space, and I'm like, this is not what journalism is supposed to be. This is not what I was taught in college. This is, and I started watching it there, and that was kind of the indicator. I was a little ahead of it there too. And it's like, it started, it was like this moment where a switch flipped, and, then it came to a point where people like us now are like, you're either called to action or you're just going to watch. And with Criticless, it was like, I think we need to put it on the line. And my wife was in the same boat. She's kind of that way. And it's like, I don't want to be divisive. I want, like you said, I want everybody on Criticless. I want the best ideas to win. I want, if you hate me, if you loathe me, you're the person I want on Criticless. That's who I want there. If you do not like me, I want you there. And I want you to tell me why I'm wrong. And I want you to tell everybody who agrees with me why they're wrong. And if you're right, you'll have the best idea. It will win. You will be the person on top, and you'll prove that you're right. But if you're wrong, people will see it. And that's always the case.
Yeah. And I do think that I think what people need more of nowadays is just entertainment. You don't need to be stuck in a negative feedback loop. It's good to be and I don't disparage. I talk a lot about how I wish more commentators in our space would talk more positively about the things that they enjoy, because they'll sit for hours and videos on end talking about all the bad shit out there. I'm like, yeah, but look at all this good stuff. And again, I'm just looking at my my past couple of reviews. I went back and watched Spy Game. That movie was fantastic. And it's not one you hear a lot about, but it's something that I think people should just go and watch. There's as a political, the movie could be highly political, but it's not. It's so middle of the road. It's just about there's some that you can be able to figure out in there, but it's overall, it's just entertaining and a really good story overall. And there's so many different things that I've seen, and it's just there. But this is what I try and use your site for, is a way to talk about things I really like. I want to show people this is awesome. And I think this is another reason I want with your site to have individual episodes available, so I can go to Love, Death and Robots season 3 episode 4 and review that episode, and that people know oh, this episode's great. Like I'm gonna go
That's
check that out.
absolutely coming for sure. That is our number one most requested feature. That was, you want to talk about my biggest mistakes? Not adding episodes. It was a conversation we had. I could have done it. I should have done it. It would have cost me a lot more, or a lot less money to do it before versus doing it now.
Yeah, let's say giant
it was a mistake.
databases have to be expensive to run like that, but
Yeah. They can be, and that is a little bit of a scary thing. Is it's like, you are still tethered to these databases. We use TMDB, which is the movie database. It's who pretty much everybody uses now.
Okay.
And I wish we had our own, but that's complicated. Granted, I'm not the biggest fan of AI. Like, I'm very hesitant on AI as a whole, but with AI coming out, it could potentially be very easy to very quickly create a database without any problems. So I don't want to be tethered to anyone else or be controlled by anybody else, as independent as humanly possible. But yeah, episodes are definitely highly requested. And, right now it's not that bad. Really, what really drives the cost is like number of users. When you really just get super, super active, like that's really where the cost. I mean, the database is something, but users is, which that's a good problem to have. If you got a lot of users, then you're in a good place.
Something I just remembered something I was going to ask you earlier regarding users. Does having those inflated numbers like help with discoverability too? Like, I mean, because bots are essentially like commenting and interacting to some degree. Does that help with anything like regarding Google algorithms or anything like that? Do you know? Or
not internally within our platform, but externally, yes. Where it's like if you search us on the Android marketplace or the Apple marketplace, like it definitely helps to have those bot downloads. Like now, as far as like without getting too into the weeds with like searchability, if you're just Googling us, that's really about like metadata and like how we structure our site and what we are feeding to Google and making it very clear that like our site does what it does basically. So the bots don't help in that sense, but they do as far as if you're searching for Criticless or like if you type in movie reviewing platform, like multiple others are going to show up before us because they have a lot of inflated numbers of not real users, and that's just the nature of the beast. But I'm okay with that. I'd rather stay niche, honestly. Like, I'd rather have a dedicated, like, people like, this is the real platform. This is the place to go. This is real people. Like, I'd rather be there.
Well, it's quality over quantity, which I think, I was talking with some people in my Discord just about just being a little bit more philosophical about how we sort of can change the world and do things like that are more meaningful. And I think one of the things, essentially what you could boil down a lot, well, what you're talking about was like having that, quality over quantity, like, or being a little bit more selfless about what you're trying to do. Like, of course, people need to make money. Like, you need to make money in order to keep this running. Right. But like, you're making sacrifices now that will allow for a better product down the road. And I imagine this is something you want to keep yourself and not, at least not now, sell.
As long as possible.
Right. Exactly what I mean. It's like, you're not trying to make that quick buck, like build it up, sell it for 50 million and be out. Like,
Right. No, because number one, when we came in, this was about culture and, we've got things brewing now, other people potentially getting involved with the company and that want to see us grow. And I know that like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, he loves what we're doing. Him and I have had multiple one-on-ones at this point, and there are many people in the space that know what we are doing, that love what we are doing. They're just trying to figure out what our space, where we fit in the puzzle. And honestly, one of the biggest things I've figured out is people just want to wait and see if you're the real deal. Like, they want to see if you're actually going to continue to practice what you preach and if you're really about it. And I understand that, and I don't blame them, because one of the things that we have discovered since doing this is like there are a lot of like other bigger people like outside of this entertainment sphere that know about us, that are very much like culture warrior, whatever. Not a peep about us. They know about us, but they're not talking about us. The reason is because I don't have money coming out of my ears where I can just pay every freaking content creator on the planet to talk about us. I just don't. So obviously that comes down to goodwill. But the thing is, it's like, that's just the world and how it works. And, it's, you learn as you go. And there are people that are really about it, and there's people that not, and there are people also that are just waiting to see if you're going to hang around, if you're the real deal, if you're not just going to sell out, if you're going to support what you're doing, and if people like what you're doing. And so far, we're proving that that is what we're doing. And I hope that people see that, because I love it. I mean, there are people, literally our users, like I said, on like a probably weekly basis, like will bring me to tears of just saying like stuff about the community and like making friends. Like there are people that have created groups that are just like, you're my friends. Like I don't have a huge circle where I live because I live in the Midwest or wherever. And, I don't have a big community, but I found it here. And this feels like back in the MySpace days when I would just make online friends, and I didn't think that was a real thing anymore, but I'm doing it here. And that alone is enough for me to be like, this is the right thing. Like we're doing the right thing.
Have you thought about going to like a con and like maybe trying to get a table and like maybe try and get something going like through your website? Be like, hey, we're going to be at, MegaCon in Orlando. Like come by our table. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk about what we're doing, even if it's like a small booth, not like a big panel or whatever. But have you thought about doing stuff like that or looked into it?
Absolutely. And we're considering it for sure. And it would definitely be worth the cost, as we've seen with dumping money. I mean, literally, like we were talking about marketing. It's like, dude, if you want to keep a marketing company on retainer, it's $5,000 a month just to have them on the, like literally just to have them on the books. That's just not even running ads. That's doing nothing. That's just having them on the books. Then you got to add however many grand on top of that you want just for them to run ads for you. So, and a lot of people don't know this, and I had no idea before starting. So I'd rather put that money. I could spend that much on a booth at, Orlando or wherever, one of these cons, and get 10 times the traffic. I was honestly blown away by the reception I went to the show in Orlando. That was where I met Jeremy with Geeks and Gamers, and I was hanging out with Odin the whole time. And he's the freaking man. Like that dude has been our biggest champion, like just pushing us from day one. He was one of our early adopters, and hanging out with him. But dude, the lines at that Orlando con were just in both directions. There were longer lines to meet the Geeks and Gamers crew, to meet, Nerdrotic and Gary and that crew, and just everybody involved. And Ripaverse, they were at his booth, and there were longer lines to see them than 90% of the celebrities that were at that convention.
That's wild.
I'm not joking. It is freaking wild. And I was like, okay, like clearly. And the crazy thing is I had no idea this world, all of these people existed before I started doing this. Like I literally was listening to nothing but basically a bunch of like primarily left like podcasts and stuff. And I was just like, oh God, like, I guess that's all that's out here. And as we started digging in, I was like, oh, there's like people that are kind of like on the same page, and it's been kind of wild.
Well, I think a lot of the big ones are all left because they're all like, it's Giant Bomb. It's, or I don't even know if Giant Bomb's still around, honestly, but it's all like the offshoots of those big companies that are all
like IGN.
IGN, yeah, I couldn't think of it. Yes,
right, yeah. Kotaku, which has sent themselves down the gutter at this point because they got so political.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And what's funny is that like Arthur and Anthony, they created Polygon, so I think that's another one that's like on the cusp of just like falling apart. Which is too bad because like I don't wish for companies to fall, but they. Being from where they are, like a lot of those guys are progressive dudes that, by no fault of their own, because that's just what they're inundated with. But they've leaned so hard into that message that they've stopped talking about games, and they stopped talking about, my favorite segment of Rebel FM, because literally it was my favorite video game podcast, that and the Cheap Ass Dad Cagcast, dude, that guy's awesome. But the Rebel FM, they did a music episode every like Christmas time. They did, dude, they would just go through that year and rate like the best soundtracks from video games. No one else was doing that. Those guys like really did such a good job at putting together like quality show about games. And then it became not about games. I'm like, this is the problem. You're losing people because they didn't come here for this. They don't care about this. They care about your industry knowledge. And that's what I want. I want your industry knowledge and like, tell me all about Gears of War and all the stuff you did working on that. And then tell me about Anthony, tell me about all this indie stuff that you're working on and the studios you're working with. Like, that's the kind of shit that people want to hear. They don't care. Like it's just too bad. We're just so far removed from.
Right. And it's like, how do you come back at this point from this? Like, how do you go that hard politically and then, work your way back? And it's the same. I listened to the group I was talking about earlier was /Filmcast, and they had the DLC podcast. I don't know if you ever listened to them,
no.
But it was a similar thing where it was just it's the exact same thing where it's like they would like recommend a movie, or on the game podcast they would recommend the game, and I would go check it out, and I'm like, this sucks. Like I remember playing one indie game and they were like, this is the best game of the year, and they wouldn't say anything really about it, what the plot was, anything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna buy this indie game, buy it, and like the whole plot turns out to be about like some young girl being a lesbian, and I'm just like, I am a grown man. I like, this is not what I came to do. Like, I understand, like, their stories, these people have their stories and whatever, but like, you buried the lead. Like you said, I came for your industry expertise. Y'all told me this was the game of the year, and then I play it and that's the plot. Like, what happened? How did
Yeah, it's just too bad. You said you were big into video games, and I didn't realize that. What is your genre of choice, or what game are you playing right now that you can't stop playing?
Man. Honestly, right now, of late, I was playing as a weird little indie called Dave the Diver. Have you heard of it?
Dude, I keep looking at that in my Steam page. I'm like, do I want to get that? I don't know.
I got a Steam Deck. First of all, highly recommend Steam Decks. Like, they're awesome, especially like as a dad, whatever. It's like, you don't want to be like and married and stuff. It's like, if you want to just like hop in the bed and you're just like, I'm going to play video games for a little while. Like, I don't have to be secluded to another room, like playing my Xbox or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, dude, Dave the Diver is awesome. The chat saying it too. It's so fun. It's like I'm hunting fish and catching fish in this 2D side scroller, and then at night I'm cooking sushi and like serving up sushi to people. And it's just this old school type of, side. It's not exactly side scrollery, but 2D, whatever.
Is it 2.5D? Is that what they call it?
I think so. And like pixel art, super cool. And I heard that they're adding a actual like licensed Godzilla expansion for the game, which has me excited.
That's cool.
So yeah, the game's sick. I've been playing the crap out of it on Steam Deck. It's perfect for those type of, indie games. Mm. And so that's been the big one. And then my son, like he just turned 8. He's huge into Fortnite. And so when I'm playing games with the kids, it's like we're squadding up, doing trios, playing Fortnite, and we've got one of us on a PlayStation, one of us on an Xbox, somebody's on like a PC, and it's just my son, he just for his 8th birthday, he decided, I was like, you can have a sleepover, and he was like, I was like, any of your friends you want, and he's like, I want you to be there for my sleepover, and I was like, sweet, dude, I will take that as long as I'm the cool dad, I'll take it. So we did like literally old school LAN party in the garage with a tent, playing video games with multiple consoles, and we just played like Fortnite all night. Like, and
that's
they loved
dope.
It.
Yeah,
so I find myself playing a lot of Fortnite, and honestly, I have fun with them. They love it, and so, but that's what I've been playing lately.
That's cool. My kids are still a little young. My oldest is 7, and my youngest is 5.5, and so we actually played Mario Party Superstars the other day, and that was fun. Like my younger one doesn't quite like get video games yet. My older boy is really good. Like, he's beaten Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario 3D World, and I think he's beaten Super Mario Wonder as well. Like, he's done a lot more on my Switch than I have.
Oh yeah, that's how my son is too.
And so we played like a full game. It was a short game of Super Mario Party, but it was like one of the first times I was like, all the boys were playing. And it just felt like really fun and cool. And it's only going to get easier, because like the more they learn the mini games and stuff, like it'll just be, so I'm excited to play it more.
as they get older.
Right.
Because there is a point where you're like, my wife calls it when kids come online. Like they will, you'll realize when they come online, and you're like, oh, like you're realizing like how all of this works in the world and just everything. And it's like when that switch happens, when they come online, you're like, all right, we're ready to rock. And and that's like, my daughter is 10 and a half, and she's the same way, where like she's big into games. But it's funny because my son, he's 2 years younger, but dude, video games, it just blows my mind. I'm just like, they pick the stuff up and they just figure it out. They're so good. And I just hope that industry is not totally ruined to where there's nothing good either. And video games right now are just dealing with an all-out attack at this point of just trash. And I think that really, honestly, with those, it even comes into just like the wrong people for the jobs, and, you know, bad storytelling, and games are not what they were even 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad. I mean, I think for a lot of the same reasons with Hollywood, like Hollywood and games, like they all take a long time to make. So I think there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline that, you know, these companies just can't lose money on the way. Like you can't dump $100 million or something into a movie or game and then have nothing to show for it, you know? But so they put out what they can. They hope to recover what they can. At least I hope that's the case. I actually just recently started my own journey, like learning Unity, and want to just start creating. Like I like what I've gotten into now, because I don't have as much time as I used to, are roguelike games, like the 2D top-down Vampire Survivors and all the other clones that kind of spawn from there. And I really want to just learn how to make my own, because if you're going to combat something, whether it's an entertainment, video games, books, movie, you gotta make your own sometimes, or you have to be involved with people who want to make something, who are passionate about a return to form. And if you don't, I mean, you need a good team. Nothing's cheap anymore. It's hard to self-finance, as you know.
Oh, absolutely. And it's hard. And even like with us, with having the devs we have, like they're not cheap. But it's like, I want to have the best quality. I want to have the best that, you know, that money can buy, and do it right. And it's like, people, you know, we have people that hopped on our platform, and they literally like DM me personally on X or wherever, and they're like, hey, like, do you like, are you a dev? Like, did you create this? And I'm like, no, I got a really freaking good team. And they're like, freaking hats off. Like, but that's the thing, is you got to find the right people. But at the same time, it's like, if you've got a good idea, and that's the biggest thing I'd say after going for this, is like, whether you have the capital to do it, or if you can find people to help you, you know, just freaking go for it. Like, you know, it's one of those things where that was my biggest thing, is I was like, I don't want to be sitting there at, you know, 70, 80 years old and be like, I didn't do what I wanted to do. Like, I didn't take the risk. And, you know, I especially think you're probably right around my age in that bracket. And it's kind of one of those things where we see our parents in that age group, where so many of them just, they literally just did whatever they had to do, ended up doing jobs they didn't want to do, and wouldn't take a risk. And now they're just like, well, I spent my whole life doing this menial job that I hated. And I think that is one plus that happened with our generation, is like, they screwed us so hard that all of us are like, I don't care. Screw it. Like, I'm going to throw caution to the wind and do this thing because I think it matters. Yeah. And I think for many people it's working out, and, you know, it's a risk, but, you know, quite often those risks pay off. And either way, at the end of the day, you can at least say you did it.
Yeah. And I think the good thing, I think you're right with a lot of people in our generation just throwing caution to the wind. I think that it obviously has its ups and downs, right? It could totally screw you, but now more than ever, you have the ability to like really catch fire through these social platforms, you know, and be able to connect with people in ways that you just could not before. Totally. You know, it's as much as people like push back against like globalists, this or that, like being able to connect on a global level, like just totally changes everything. You're not reliant just on knowing a small community. Again, you can blow up across the world. And honestly, that's, in your case, it's kind of what you need. You need people from all around the world, multiple countries, to, you know, to find your product and see the value in it. But it can happen like that, and you won't even realize it. And you'll wake up one morning and be like, okay, the site's down. There's 800,000 people, waiting to be confirmed. Like what's going on here?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it will happen, I'm sure. And I mean, we've some of our most active users, quite a few of them are not from the United States, and that was one of the biggest things. Is like when talking with people that are like, "Are you sure you want to do this? This is a big risk." And I'm like, "Look, I could be spending the same amount of money to be like starting a freaking restaurant or like a small business in town that has a limited audience, whatever." I'm like, the world is my oyster here. Like my audience is big as I needed to be. And some of our, like one of our most active users is from Australia, and he's become borderline a freaking employee at this point. This dude is like putting in more work within the app than I am. Like, it's wild. And so I mean, it's like it really does having this access with the internet and everything, as long as they don't go the way that Europe is going right now, the stuff we're seeing happen over there is wild right now. And that's the other thing, is giving people alternatives like Criticless to have a voice and to say the things where they might not be allowed to elsewhere.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a complete bummer what we're seeing in the UK right now. Not to get into the political side of things, but it's worrisome. And actually, I saw, to keep it in the PC realm though, like computers, I did see an article by PC Gamer that was talking. It was basically retweeting an article saying how if people don't like what Elon is saying, that they should have him arrested. And I was like, well, first of all, like that's a crazy stance to have. The article was written in PC Gamer under the hardware section, which I thought, okay, this has nothing to do with PCs, obviously. No. But yeah, it's just we're in a weird spot in the world, and it's unfortunate that we're so bifurcated with like every single issue, and you can't even have like a rational conversation surrounding, like, even for example, like how Elon Musk might talk, like the truth is people spoke about other people all the time. Like, for example, like the whole Australian breakdancer. Right. So she goes out there and has the absolute funniest and worst performance ever. Right. But nobody's allowed to talk about it. But like, this isn't the first time that people have like publicly spoken about how bad something was. Right. Now, do I condone like, a media fire about someone? No, but it's fucking hilarious, dude. I mean, if you haven't watched it, like, it's so incredibly bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, funny enough, the user I was talking about is from Australia, and he has a a group that he calls the beer cooler. And I literally posted in there, and I was like, I think we all need to take a moment to congratulate I Miss Good Movies on his people and their performance at the Olympics. It was astounding. Like, we need a round of applause. And I'm not going to say what his response was. It was hilarious, but he threw some shade too. But it is one of those things where it is funny to see these people in other countries as well who are like, things are not what they painted out to be. Like, it's not like that, and it's kind of wild. But we are in a weird spot, like you said, and things are strange. And honestly, now doing this, there is a part of me that worries, because I am technically the owner of a social media platform, and the government is starting to really put a heavy thumb on social media platforms and the people that own them and what they are doing. And there is a little bit that makes me nervous, where I'm just like, I'm just this regular dude from rural North Carolina that like took a risk, and like, I could potentially, if we hit a boom, like have the government knocking at my door being like, why are you allowing this here? And, I tried to structure it in a way where things couldn't, get out of control or cause problems, because operating as a free speech platform, there is a tightrope walk, with that in general. But, with the level in which the government's getting involved, and depending on who's in office, like, things could get really hairy.
Yeah. That's the other thing I was going to, how much do you think you have to worry about free speech when it comes to your particular platform? Do you think it's something that you'll run into much of? I mean, maybe not so much now.
You're right. I think it's all about those number of users and real people. And if you hit the right and or wrong radars, right? Where it's like right now, we're probably not on a ton of radars. I don't know. We always joke because I have these weird interactions where I stumble into like strange people in strange places all the time, and my wife is constantly joking about being like, "You just met a Fed." She's like, "They're watching," but like because we've had a lot of weird things happen. Even just locally, like I said, we live in rural North Carolina. We're like a town outside of Charlotte. So Charlotte's one of the bigger ish cities, but even where we live, we've dealt with our local governments and how all of that works. And, even on this small scale, we've seen what level of influence these court systems can have. And without going into an insane story involving fighting cocks, I could go off the rails and send us through a really crazy story. But basically, we've seen that, like, even in these small towns, if they want to influence what you were doing, if they want to stop you, if they have a problem with what you were doing, they will and they can. Our court systems are set up that way, and these judges are in these places where they can stop you if they need to.
On your local level?
Oh, absolutely.
Your online company, they can really.
Oh, not on the local level with the online company. I'm just saying that the fact that they can do it on the local level in small ways tells me that on the larger scale, if you are even remotely on their radar, if they want to stop you, they will. Is kind of the best way to put it, because we've seen it just even on the local level, and it's scary. And so knowing that and knowing how all of this system works and how kind of corrupt it is at its core, it is scary being, because now we're wading into much deeper waters with bigger fish. And right. I have no idea. It's like, maybe we don't end up on a radar. Nobody cares. But it's like we just saw recently where it's like, it seems like there's this concerted effort to basically nuke, Gary and Neurotic, and Critical Drinker and these people like off the map, because people don't want them doing and saying the things that they're doing. And it's only a matter of time. If you are pushing back against culture, if you are trying to be the counterculture, then you're going to make people mad. And if the powers that be want you silenced, they're going to try.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, I hope that people don't use your platform as a means to try and get you guys canceled or whatever. Right. I mean, I hope you guys, it seems to me you guys are in a niche of your own where
right.
It's about entertainment. Like, it is a social network, but it kind of stops at eventually TV, movies, video games, and like books and stuff. Right. Like, if you keep it in that sort of sphere, you shouldn't have a spot like. And this again, it comes into legal troubles of how much are you responsible for what other people say.
Other people do. Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. And some of that, it's kind of like, I'll find out when it happens. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And, hopefully, we've seen where there are these bigger parties like Elon and different folks where if they find out that people like that are in trouble, like Gina Carano or different things where they're running into legal issues where they're like, hey, I'm going to help because this sucks. Like, this is not cool that this is happening to you.
Yeah.
And
I'm so stoked to see where this goes. And I hope as not active as I am currently, I talk about you guys a lot when I can.
Thank you.
When you guys, because I do want people to go here and I want them to make an account. And actually, I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but if you guys haven't been there, I'll put the link in the chat. It's also down in the description. Go and make an account with criticless.com. Blaine he's the CEO of this. We've been talking for about an hour and a half now about all this stuff, and he's running a great site. And if you love movies, if you like talking about them, you can do it here. You can review them very much in the same way you can review movies on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right.
But way more interactive.
And why do it there? Like, why give them free press, right? At this point, like, we all know they exist. We all know they suck. Like, we're doing it better. Just come here. Like, we made this for you guys. And that's the thing. Like, I've always, from the start, it's like we've wanted to be the people's platform. And it's like, we spent the first year literally just as the recommendations came in, like, this is a problem, that's a problem, we fixed it. And like, we've gotten to a point now where honestly, there aren't many problems. The only problems, quote unquote, that we have are just requests for new features to make the site better. It's not like this doesn't work or this is broken, And I do, there is a part of me that feels bad for putting another social platform on people for like because I was so anti-social media for so long, but I was like, you know what? I want to create the one that I would use. Like, I know that there are a lot of people that like don't want to get into the mess of these other platforms. Like, you know, if I was to be on social media, it would be to talk about the things I'm enjoying, like that the movies or music or shows. Or I've always been, you know, like we were talking about earlier, I'm into video games. I love music. I'm a musician. I played music for years. Like, you know, love movies and, you know, am very much an armchair, you know, critic and have opinions about things. And there are a lot of people that are that way and they would rather talk about this than talk about politics. Politics are boring. Who gives a shit? Like, who cares? Like, why are we spending all of our time talking about it? And I understand when I say who cares, like, it is important. Like, our future is important. Yep. But on the same hand, it's like sometimes we just need to step away from that and have a little fun. Like, we all need to quit being so serious. Like, life is short. Like, why take yourself so seriously? That's always how I've lived with things. And I just, you know, let's have fun. Let's talk about things that we're enjoying. And like you said, talk about things that we like. Like, honestly, it's hard to find heinous reviews from me because I try not to watch things that I know I'm going to hate. I'm like, hey, I'd rather just, like, now granted, if I hate it, if I watch Borderlands and it's trash, I'm going to tell you it's trash. Like, I'm not like some of these YouTubers who are like out here, like, just, you know, simping for all the good stuff. And if they don't like it, they just don't review it. It's like, if I like it, you know, I'll tell you. If I don't, I won't. But it's like, I'd rather just enjoy stuff and tell people what I like. And so, you know,
Blaine gave Borderlands a 19% on his website. 19% though?
Yeah, it's that bad, bro. I'm an avid player of the games. I played Borderlands 2 far too much, like a whole lot. And this movie, it's really bad. It's really bad. I hate it. I don't have a lot of heinouses. I don't even have that many boguses. I tend to stick decent and up because most of the time I'm the type of person where I'm like, look, I see the merit in this. There are going to be some people that are going to like this, you know, but sometimes I'm like, this is trash. Or like The Acolyte. The Acolyte might even have a 0 from me. I can't even remember where I settled, but like, it's just that bad. Like, I hate this. I didn't even finish the last episode, 2 episodes, because I couldn't sit through it because it was that bad.
I think most movies are decent or above. You know, first of all, a lot goes into making these films. And to me, when I know like what it takes to make them, and then also, or what goes into making them, and like that is like an automatic probably 20% for me. But on top of that, like there's, I don't know, at the end of the day, movies are entertainment. Like, and again, this is where the entertaining slider will be good, is like, like I do find value in things that will just keep me in my chair. If I find that I'm on my phone a lot, or if I'm like getting up and not caring what I'm missing, that to me is a problem. But most things I'm checking out, I'm paying attention enough to the story to sit in my seat and, you know, see what's going on. So,
and that was the biggest problem with me with Borderlands, is like watching it, I was like, I kind of want to leave. I don't even want to be here. And clearly all of the actors in this movie also don't want to be here. Like,
so sad.
It was just that bad. And you know, they say in the chat, it's like the cast was awful. And that was the thing, is it's like you see the cast and you're like, this doesn't make sense. If you're a fan of the games, this cast doesn't even make sense. But it was a mess. They cut it to pieces. And, you know, it is what it is. But sometimes things are just heinous. And that was the thing that I like about my scale, where it's like there is this gradient where Rotten Tomatoes is like solid tomato or a splat. And it's just like, who lives in a world where things are black and white? Like, that is not the real world. I don't know what world you guys live in, but there's a gradient, and sometimes things are just decent. And if I see that something's decent, I'll at least take a risk on it. Like, if it's in the middle, you know, but I think that was one of my biggest things. I was like, I want this scale to be right. And, you know, it might not be perfect for everybody, but you know, I think it works well, and it's a better scale than most people have. And it's a lot more exciting than, you know, 3 thumbs up or some 5 stars, or who cares, you know, it's most excellent, or this is heinous.
I do love how the grading scales also fits with that like 80s aesthetic, like really well done all the way. So
thank you. I don't know if you caught it being a gamer. If you look at the color scale, it's a loot scale.
Yes. I did notice that.
Except for instead of gray, it's red, but it is the loot scale. I was like, I want to build in a way where at least like a chunk of the audience will be like, I understand how this works. Like gold is the best, and you know, purple is the next down. And so I was like, I want to build in that scale where people just instantly are like, I understand how this works and why it looks like this.
Well, before we kind of check out a little bit here, is there anything that we can make a Ready Set Shag exclusive that we can plan on coming, maybe post 1 year event, or maybe you got something? It's okay if you can't. I figured I'd ask. We're here, and if you can't, that's okay. No,
I'm trying to think of. Okay, I'll say this.
Okay.
Okay. I got one. We were talking about badges earlier, right? And we were talking about the achievements.
Yep.
I have a plan. We are working with some clever folks. I have a treasure hunt planned. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
I don't want to say too much, but when our user base hits a certain level and there are certain content creators involved, certain people that we know, we just need to apply pressure. But, when there's certain people involved, we are going to execute something that's going to be really cool and really fun, and I'm super excited about it. I think my wife teased it in the chat, but involving badges and stuff, and it's going to be super fun, and I'm really excited to do it. It's just a matter of I want to hit a user base point to where there's enough people involved that this treasure hunt is fun. So
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited. Do you have anything coming up between Criticless Cast or anything like that you want to plug before we head out?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've pivoted to doing Monday through Thursday. I do the news now. I'm covering stuff that most people aren't covering. Like today, I covered the fact that it's looking like we are getting a Creature from the Black Lagoon remake starting at Universal. I'm covering weird stuff that's more obscure news. Like you said, I'm covering things that people are excited about and that would find interesting versus just hating on all the trash that's coming out. And It's so if you want to keep up to date on what's going on in the news, follow our Criticless Cast channel. And we're also reviewing movies once a week, which is a lot of fun. And we did for a little while, we dressed up in retro aesthetic. Every episode, it turned out to be a lot. We were wearing wigs and it was a whole thing, but we pulled back from that a little bit, but we're still having fun doing the reviews. And I'm doing the news, and like I said, much more respect after doing Monday through Thursday news. It's having that content out there and regular it's a whole thing, man.
Yep.
On top of running this company and staying active in Criticless and stuff. So but I mean, follow us on social media. It helps us a lot. And our YouTube channel and stuff, because we're growing and people are starting to find us, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And so, definitely do all that. And then just come into Criticless, because it's a fun place to be. People are really having a good time. And, especially if you're a smaller content creator and you're wanting people to find your stuff, honestly, us adding those YouTube videos native, in your reviews where you can view it within Criticless and never have to leave, but you guys still get the views within YouTube and stuff. We've been having a lot of folks find channels just because they're hey, I went and looked at this review, and then all of a sudden I saw this person that did a video. They're a small YouTuber. They're really cool. And it's been really helpful. And, with our paid subscriptions, honestly, if you support what we're doing and you want to support Criticless, then join the Crit Club. We give a discount for if you're on web. So go to the web. Apple and Android do not want me to tell you that, but we give a discount if you're using the web version for our paid. So if you're going to do the paid version, do it on web because it's cheaper than doing it via the app.
Nice.
So yeah, that's an important thing where it's I can't make it public. That's what we do. X does it as well, but it's they take such a big cut. I can take that cut out and give the discount to you guys versus them taking it. That's a whole other thing dealing with Apple and Android. They're paying, and those guys take a heck of a cut. But I'm hoping, honestly, as we grow, we can make ways for people like you and other content creators to make money within Criticless. And we have a lot of really cool ideas. You were talking about features and stuff. If we can get to the right point, if we can grow, we can make it to where all sorts of people can make money on the platform. And I have some really cool ideas kind of in the chamber. It's just as we grow, it'll happen. So.
Yeah, and guys, there's also another section we didn't mention it, but I think we kind of glossed over it. One of the groups and I think everyone might be involved in it by default. The Criticless Improvement group. It is a great group to be in because you can make suggestions and talk with the community about different ideas that you have.
Right.
So instead of trying to call Blaine late at night or send him an email, you can just talk in there. Yeah.
And our whole team sees it, and there have been multiple things that we have implemented and done without the site or due to recommendations from our users. It's happened many times, and we want to continue to make this the platform that you guys want to use. It's the best for you guys because it is about all of our users. I mean, the platform could not be what it is without the people that use it, period. Mm-hmm. And so I want to stay true to that for as long as I own this platform, is that it's about the people that use it, because it wouldn't be that without them.
Well, thanks again, dude. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
For those, I mean, guys, I mean, you're here, you're probably following me, but as always, tomorrow night we have, Wednesday night is Shagcast, and then Thursday night we'll be playing some games. We are working towards a really cool custom Minecraft server, which, even though I'm old, we really like Minecraft. We're doing a whole custom game mode. It combines RPG elements and survival. So I'm really stoked to do it. It's all client-side plugins. Server-side plugins, so you don't have to download anything. You just download Java. You have your game installed, and go. We have a beta planned for actually September, with a full release going in October. So there's a lot of work we're doing behind the scenes you're not seeing, but become a member of the channel if you're into Minecraft, you want to play. We'll be able to play on there, and then we'll be doing games here and there in between. But a lot of great interviews, a couple more this end of this month. I'm going away for 2 weeks in September. We're going to Hawaii. Can't wait for that.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys so much for joining. Blaine, again, you're awesome. I appreciate you a lot. I look forward to meeting you again in person.
Anytime. Yeah, definitely.
And take it easy, chat. We love you. We'll see you guys next time. Later.